Hello, friends. So, a certain report on the farm for the week. If you suddenly don't understand what we are talking about, then I conducted a small test, a farm of 100 million silver to gather resources in a week. I've been streaming on Twitch almost all this time, so subscribe to the channel so as not to miss the streams. If anything, this is not a guide. I'm not going to teach you anything or explain anything in detail. I'll just tell you what I did, how and why, with some of my comments and tips that you can learn for yourself and somehow use in your case. If you like this format, we will soon do something else, but with a different kind of content. So, enough of the preface, let's go. Day 1. The beginning of the path. I gathered it from the guild shelter. It is very convenient and is located away from the portal, thereby reducing competition, although not much, since quite a lot of large guilds live nearby. On the first day, I decided to go to different types of content as much as possible, and in the morning I went to check the nearest Avalon. There, as usual, it was a little empty. However, along the way I met the legendary mist. In general, I noticed that it comes across as often as possible in less popular locations, and judging by the fact that there are quite a lot of legendary wisp on the test server, I dare to assume that it, like mobs, tends to become rarer over time, up to legendary. In general, it doesn't matter. The first capital I earned was from the mist. Anyway, I was very lucky that day. Entering the rare mist, I received exits to another high-level mist. Often he was clogged with resources to the fullest and took it all to the shelter. On the first day, I was able to earn more than 16 million in about 7 hours of dense gather. And the most interesting thing, perhaps, was only the meeting with the griffin. Even on the gatherer's set, he was pretty easy prey for me. Well, the loot from him, of course, was a so-so. By the way, loot from chests, drones, mobs and so on is not taken into account. We take into account only resources, books and, of course, tomes. And, well, we also take into account the cubs. They fall quite rarely, so yes. The morning gathering was more delicious and rich, and closer to noon, the resources at the location were greatly reduced, and only occasionally the mist and the roads of Avalon helped out, which the hands of greedy gatherers did not have time to reach. Ah yes, at the end of the day I collected 7 trees with guildies, but we won't take him into account, of course. A day 2 started for health. At night before going to bed, I decided to run a little through the locations and found again the legendary mist, in which I found 8-3 ent. It was delicious. In 15 minutes of gathering, I have farmed more than 3 million. In general, the day 2 started very well. However, of this I overslept and had to collect closer to 11 o'clock in the afternoon, where the gatherer picks clattered properly, and therefore the resource was not so much. Today I went away from the guild shelter in the hope of finding something tasty, and even sometimes found, for example, 7-3 wood. On this day, the mist was not kind to me, and visiting her, I could not find anything really valuable, except for a night gift. But still, I managed to get a couple of the 8th mist. On this day, I gathered a little more than 15 million worth of resources. In general, not bad. However, the pace had to be increased, since there will clearly be more online on the weekend, which means there will be less resource. In just 2 days, I came out with 32 million. There is still a lot of work ahead. Day 3 is lagging. That day I woke up early to play until technical works that promised to be long. And I met this. Well, I had to skip the morning gathering again. And when I finally managed to get in, I began to meet widespread reconnects. It seemed that the system itself was against my challenge, because there was less and less time. Only by evening I was able to enter the game, and the resource after a long break was very much. I've only killed about 4 mammoths. Well, it's clear that without mammoth calf, alas. In addition to mammoths, I also met delicious resources. And then I went to other locations, where I met a mist in which a cursed staff began to haunt me, not allowing me to gather resources. For which she got what she deserved a little later. Well, and even more so, the rat couldn't resist it, you know. But that's not all. Unfortunately, I didn't write down the whole conflict, but another one of the cursed staff tried to squeeze at my big bore 7-1. It was near the guild shelter. Then I changed my clothes and got into a fight with her. The boar was taken, resources were collected, the bullshit is punished. In total, during this day I collected only a little over 7 millions, which in total turned out to be only 40 million in 3 days. This means that tomorrow I need to gather as much as possible. Day 4. A lot of work. Today is compensation day. I got up early in the morning and got to work, for which the game rewarded me with 7-3 wood. But this is the end of the next few hours of favor. The locations were dried out, as if it was already day or the weekend had come. For the first time I met at least some group of gunkers who could not do anything with me. I've met them before, but there wasn't much action happening. I haven't even been gunked in all these days yet. A little later, in Avalon, I found a tier 8 skin aspect. But while I collected the items for his murder and returned, he was already being farmed. Either it's a coincidence, or my stream was just watched by someone, but everything can be. I tried to interfere, but the set was completely unsuitable for a 1-against-2 fight, and even with heal. After washing my face with tears, I went to farm further. A little later, I found the tier 8 mist, in which I farmed at least some resources. At one point, the guildmates called me to collect the cat tier 8 in Avalon, where I loot a tome of leather, which came out for almost 2 million. Delicious. If someone did not know, then the tomes are used for upgrades gathering. Something like Tome of Insight to gather. Drop rarely, is expensive. And then only stupid grind was waiting for me. Sometimes I got tough, gathered under the noses of the gunkers. Will I be arrogant if I start gathering everything like this? Well, what to do, it was necessary to accumulate as much as possible, and in general it turned out. In 8 hours I collected almost 22 million. It remained a small matter. Day 5, Deadly. I farmed a little at night and looted the resources in the 8th mist. I went to bed. And starting in the morning, I was so lucky to have resources in the open world and the mist. I even met a foggy weaver, whom I almost took away and almost gave away all my possessions, but thanks to the collecting shoes I was able to dump in time. After that, I checked the nearest Avalons from the shelter and found it again, the tier 8 aspect of the skin. This time the basilisk was nearby. I regrouped in a matter of minutes, where a viewer from the stream was already waiting for me, whom I asked not to interfere with me. In return I allowed him to collect a bear walking nearby. Having easily coped with the basilisk, he began to gather. However, the man also wanted to eat the 8th snake. But I had no intention of sharing, driving him away from the beast's body in every possible way, for which, offended, the gatherer did me knock down the collection, hitting with shurikens. Trying to kill him, I spent the most valuable thing, the cooldown of my shoes. For which he paid literally immediately. After all, he was approached by help from 2 gunkers of his guild. It was my first death during the whole time of the challenge. Upset by such betrayal, I went to collect more. Let it be on their conscience. But I condemn the stream snipe. Overall, the day went well. I even met and killed a griffin, from which I got a nonsense, but despite everything, I got more than 13 million in a day. In general, 78 million silver accumulated during these 5 days in the form of the resources I collected. Day 6 and 7 are the final ones. In fact, not much content has been happening these days. There are only 20 million left to collect. Some part of me was got in the mist, somewhere from the open world. Took 6-1 aspects. Well, how did I collect it? Figured it out for 3, so to speak. Therefore, less than 1 million came out there. I even tested gathering only in the mist, and in an hour I got almost 3 million. Starting with an ordinary wisp, and after that I was looking for rarer ones inside. But, of course, not without luck, as I came across the legendary wisp. And yes, I died one more time. See that no one kills me. No comments here. Also, the servers these days were as unstable as possible. Dudo's attacks were strangled, especially on the last day of the challenge. But despite everything, he finally completed his work. I've raised 100 million, even 102. Now quickly a couple of answers to popular questions that I was asked during the stream. What build? The gathering set that you like the most. I prefer Quarrier work boots. They can be well dispersed by running through mobs. Plus, they don't give silence, like Miner's boots. Fort Sterling cape to protect yourself from control while sitting on a mount, and not only on a mount. Food, pork pie, bottles for invisibility. We use it if we don't have dots like bleeding, otherwise with any damage we come out of invisibility. Weapons. Here, either a bladed staff, which gives a health bonus, has a pleasant mobility, or a bloodletter with a mist collar. Mobility is the same, but it's nicer to kill mobs and sometimes players, but there is no extra health. Here you decide for yourself. Which mount? My choice is a frost ram. A lot of health, a nice skill in the form of a jump that can dodge any damage, and a good extra carry weight. It can also be replaced with an tame moose, exactly the same as a frost ram, but does not have a skill. The brave horse is also good, but not much carrying weight. What tools? I use the usual tools. The Avalon ones are too expensive, so their loss hits hard both morally and financially. I use Avalonian only on level for resources or aspects. How long did it take to gather? About 50 hours, that is, an average of 2 million per hour. But if you collect at a more correct time, like morning or night, then the income can be increased to 3-4 million per hour, and sometimes more, but that's how lucky you are. And finally, show the gatherer's mastery. I'm showing you. Well, that's how this week went. All in work and sweat, on plantations, forests and mines, extracting a lot of resources. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Also check out Twitch, where the main part of the broadcast on Albion and not only on Albion takes place. You also run into the Discord and Telegram with stream announcements and all other useful information, date mines and so on. Sometimes even with giveaways. Oh, yes, I almost forgot about the second channel with cuts. There is also a lot of funny stuff there. And that's it. Regaro was with you, and we'll see you again in the vastness of Albion.